apologies for that. And we tried to go live twice already, so third time's a charm. Oh, I am so sorry. And I just want to make sure that my audio is working. It seems to be working. Oh my goodness. Sorry guys, let me just check settings really fast. Make sure. We gotta wait for people to come back on in. I know how annoying that is. I am so sorry. We already had a bunch of questions. I apologize. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Miss Dawn. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm seeing on my end that the audio should be working. I don't know what happened there on the last one. If somebody can give me confirmation, that would be great. Okay. We have volume. Okay. We have audio. Oh my goodness. That was really bizarre. No idea what happened there. But so it goes. I'm not sure if I cut out earlier, but we're just going to roll with it. Happy Sunday to each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for bearing with me through some of the technical glitches that happened there, but we are good to go. People are rolling back on in, which is great. So I will go ahead and, while we wait for people to come back on in, go ahead and just dive into it. Really, really appreciate it. Every Sunday, we like to come hang out here and answer questions. As always, I'm here to give feedback and just help you in any way that I can to better grasp these teachings so you can apply them to your life. I am going to just really quick go through a couple quick announcements since, again, not sure if they were heard last time. First, I just want to thank everybody so much for the amazing feedback on my last video, my success story video. Wonderful, wonderful, and amazing. It made my week. So thank you for each one of you that enjoyed that. As far as the Neville lecture series, I have a lot of requests to make a playlist so that all of them can be found easily in one folder, one go-to. So if you're interested in checking those out, or if you want to find a way to get to them quickly, you can go ahead and click the playlist tab. I will be coming out with another one this upcoming week and announcing before I go live with that one. I'm also this week aiming to get playlists for different topics. So playlist for revision, playlist for SATs, playlist for mental diet, just the main concepts. So easy to navigate. I have over 400 videos now, so I figured it would make things easier if there's a particular topic or area that you want to concentrate on. So my aim is to have that done this upcoming week. And lastly, I want to thank everybody, those of you who signed up for one-on-one coaching and the waitlist last week. And thank you so much for your patience as I get caught up with everything. I know there was some issues with the intake form and just things like that. We're about caught up and everything sorted, but I want to thank everyone again for signing up and for patience while we got all of that cleared. So I believe that's everything. I'm trying to move quickly since I know we were running a bit behind schedule, and we've already got a number of people back here. So welcome back for those of you who were maybe here earlier, or welcome if it's your first time. I'm seeing old faces and new faces alike. Appreciate you so much for being here. And let's go ahead and jump on in. There's a lot of good things to just a first quick glance. I'm loving the questions already. All right. Kelly, hello, good morning. Or good afternoon. What is the best way to manifest an SP? And what is the best way to manifest an X? So it's a bit tricky to answer this question as far as the best way, because I wouldn't say that there is one holy grail go-to method. As far as techniques are concerned, as far as imagining and going to the end is concerned, going to that end state, different things are going to resonate with different people. What I will say definitively is that it does some good to experiment a little bit, try different ways of imagining, whether that's inner conversation, visualization, affirmations, and find what comes most naturally to you. The best way is going to be the one that comes naturally to you, the path of least resistance. Uh, we don't want this practice to feel forced. We don't want this to feel like a chore, ideally. So I wouldn't say that there is just like one be all end all way. My personal preferences are utilizing revision and utilizing the state akin to sleep, but that's just me. That's just me. So experiment a little bit, play around with different ways of going to the end and see what comes most naturally for you. Yeah. Hi, Missy. I've never been able to do SAT successfully. Today, during my nap, I had a dream in which Dream Me did SATs and created the exact imaginal scene I've tried in real life. So, like SATs, but part two, done by Dream Me in a nested dream. Is this common? What might it say about what my subconscious is up to? Thank you for these lives. You taught me so much. Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you for being here. Yeah. So in your dream, the dream you was in SATs, if I'm following correctly. And this is not, this is actually pretty common. If I'm understanding correctly, it is sort of a, Neville used to call imagining in SATs like a controlled waking dream. So it is almost a dream within a dream. It sounds kind of bizarre, but yeah. So long as you notice the feeling, like you were able to capture the feeling. Um, I know it can help when we have those tones of reality, those strong tones of reality, the imaginal senses, so to speak. Um, so again, as long as you were feeling into that, as long as it felt natural for you, yeah, yeah. Because coming out of the imaginal act, it should feel like this is done. Like it should feel like what we had imagined had just happened to us. Um, Again, I am working on, ended up turning into a series on SATs, trying to do a more thorough breakdown. I've made a few videos, but I wanted to really hone in on the points that a lot of people struggled with. I know SATs is one of those things that can feel challenging and kind of elusive. Uh, it was supposed to be one video, but it ended up going way longer. So that will be coming out in the not too distant future. So, but it's what you're describing, not uncommon. Not uncommon. What if I feel just chill? Can't really explain it. That's normal. hmm That's normal. I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, when I reach that Sabbath state, when I reach that state of it is done, it is usually what you described. It's a chill feeling. It's a normal feeling. It's not bursting with excitement. I may have moments where I get excited or notice some emotion come up, but it's not like this flying high over the moon type of intensity. At least not for me, and most of the people that I talk to experience similar. So feeling chill about it, that's really good indications. But most importantly, I would be noting, where are your thought patterns in the day to day? How are you reacting, if differently at all? As long as those are lining up with your ultimate aim and what you desire, that's indication that we are on the right track. Hi, Vanessa. Hello. What was that? Can I shift realities to where I am a child again? So, when it comes to those seemingly impossible manifestations, or ones that seem to defy all logic and reason, I know naturally it is going to feel very, very challenging for us to believe or accept that premise. Um, I am personally of the mindset that quite literally anything is possible as far as our experience goes, because there's no limit to what we can imagine. If you can imagine it, you can experience it. The caveat I always have to put is to the degree that it feels believable or natural, which in a lot of cases that may not feel so possible or realistic or any of that. Humans are very much tend to be, for the most part, rational minded, very logical, very practical, um, and sort of very limited to what we are seeing and experiencing out here, right? Um, Before we got those technical difficulties, in the last live stream a moment ago, somebody asked a similar question about, is it possible to manifest superpowers and things of that sort, and my answer is the same. Anything is possible to God. I believe it would be highly contradictory, to say that you are God, you are, your consciousness, awareness, God of your reality, but then you are also limited. We are limited to what we feel and accept as true, but all of that can be overcome. And that we hear about cases of, for example, like yogis achieving supernatural powers, the ability to levitate, uh, telekinesis, things like that. Again, to the degree that you believe that's true or not, but I am very much of the mindset that anything is possible. Getting discouraged by my failing to get relaxed enough for SATs the past 3 months. I either can't get relaxed enough, am too tired to stay focused, or procrastinate and wake up the next morning. I don't know what to do. I know how frustrating it can feel, when it seems like we struggle to make headway, especially when it comes to something like SATs, which, to be abundantly clear, SATs is a practice. I mean, it's going to maybe come naturally for some than others, but it is very much a practice. And especially if you are somebody that has always been very anxious, if you have somebody that has naturally had a lot of difficulty with learning to relax, then yeah, it is at first going to feel quite challenging, and I get that. And to be clear, that, as I always have to say, SATs is not the be all end all. um, there are different ways that we can approach. There are different techniques that we can utilize. If you wanted to play around with different techniques while you continue to practice, relaxing the body, relaxing the mind. Um, even Neville talked about this was something that he practiced for hours a day for a long, long time. And for myself, it was months of practice before I really got the hang of it. Um, if it is if it is any reassurance, if it's feeling like you're getting to a boiling point or like you're hitting a wall, like it's just too frustrating, you can take a step back and take a break if need be, just to kind of clear your head, recharge your batteries, because we don't want to push ourselves more and just increase the amount of frustration. It's going to have the opposite effect. um, yeah, instead of maybe practicing at night before bed, I would just be introducing different types of relaxation techniques purely for the sake of relaxing the body, and seeing if there's one that may come uh, of use for you, maybe helpful for you, right? If not deep breath exercises, body scanning, there are a variety of things that we can do to help relax the body, and even some non-conventional, like listening to really good music, going for a walk, just anything to kind of help you you know ease up a little bit, like loosen a little bit, just to get started. Yeah, I would be trying things like that through the day. And that's what I did do actually, was just find different ways that would help me to you know, take some of the pressure off, and just but it was a practice for a long time, because I was somebody who was almost constantly stuck in fight or flight mode for years and years and years. So you're not alone. Good evening from Europe. How to revise a story where my father was not present at all, and where I always believe the man I like leaves. Thank you so much for your videos. Oh, thank you, Lucia. How to revise a story where my father is not present at all, and where I always believe the man I like leaves. Yeah, one of the things that I have talked about openly on this channel was a lot of my fear of abandonment. That was one of my most deeply rooted insecurities, for similar reasons. My Again, I've talked about a lot of the old story. It's something that I am comfortable talking about now, because there's no resonance with that old story. I don't identify with it anymore. But similar to what you're describing, I had a lot of those same fears. And the beauty about revision is there are so many ways that we can get creative with it. It doesn't just have to be limited to uh, changing events that did happen. We can essentially create all new memories. We can create whole new memories, because again, a memory is just an imaginal act. It exists only in imagination. So you could, for example, uh, construct a couple of different scenes that imply that back in childhood your father was around. Maybe he went to your recitals, or he any kind of activity that you were into. He taught you how to uh, you know play a sport, or whatever that looks like for you, is where I would start. But if there is no memories that you have that you can change, you can always create new ones. Yeah. In fact, a lot of the times that's something that we already do without even knowing. So yeah. How do I manifest my employer giving me the bonus they promised? They keep delaying and I can't seem to manifest that bonus. I know. One of the trickiest things by far of all of this is suspending whatever's happening in the 3D, and really just kind of centering the focus as much as possible, to the best of our ability, on already having received it. So, what would you do with that bonus? As an example, would you buy something nice for yourself? Would you plan a trip somewhere? Would you buy a gift for somebody else? I would personally, in that case, I would imagine having already used that bonus for something desirable, right? Because that implies that you've already received it. So instead of kind of getting caught up in getting it, go all the way to the end of already having received it and what you would do with that money. If you would invest it, put it in savings. I mean, it could be anything. It could be anything. But that's where I would go. And as again, as challenging as it is when dealing with the 3D, the whole point of this practice is learning how to not let ourselves be completely moved by the 3D. Everything happening out here in this present moment is all past impression. It's all seeds that we had planted, knowingly or not, from yesterday or a week ago, a month ago, what have you. Yeah. So I would imagine what you would do with that bonus as though it's already yours. And if you do find yourself feeling triggered or upset or frustrated at any point, revise it. Revise it in that case. I hope that makes sense. Hello from India. Hello. Welcome. The gang seems to be absent today. Well, I am also on a little bit earlier than I normally get online. Uh, so it might be that. Let me see. Where's my spot? I'm trying to see if there's a part one to this question because it feels like um, how do we manifest health which is not curable? What to do? How to persist when discomfort exists all the time? Mm, the this one, of course, can feel really tricky, and I have made a video talking about manifesting good health and sharing the story of what I went through and my journey through a health ordeal. Was diagnosed with a really really awful autoimmune disorder back in 2016. So if you haven't seen that video, I definitely recommend checking that out. But naturally, it can feel very difficult to imagine something lovely or feel good when we are in pain or experiencing discomfort, obviously. So I don't recommend trying to go to the end or trying to force a feel good feeling when we are in those uncomfortable states. Um, and this is actually a whole video topic that will be coming out soon about we don't want to try to force ourselves into a good state if we are triggered or reactive. I know for myself, I had a tendency of waiting until something went bad and then try to like scramble to fix it. No. So what I did when I was in those moments of pain, when I was experiencing a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, um, I would do whatever I could to manage it. I would do whatever I could to sort of help myself through it. So, helping with like medication, pain relief, things of that nature. But in those moments where I felt okay, in those moments where I felt maybe not great, but I wasn't in such pain. It was those moments where I really took advantage of turning within and going to the end. right? So whenever you're noticing the pain levels are not as high, I'm feeling okay right now. Maybe my energy levels are better. Now is a good time to really turn within. I hope I'm making sense. I will be coming out with a video talking more about this, and definitely check out the video that I made about manifesting health. Yeah. Question: I have had success with my manifestation when I was really obsessed with it, but it burned me out. Mhm. Since I'm more relaxed and feel better, there doesn't seem to be any result. I'm confused. Mm, yeah. So, and to be clear, we can absolutely manifest from a state of like, you know, if we are obsessively keeping our focus on the end state, like not letting ourselves really entertain the unwanted circumstances, we'll absolutely see something come out of that in most cases. The first time that I manifested my husband back, prior to that, for the few months prior to that, for him showing back up, I was pretty obsessively just affirming and constantly not letting any negative thoughts whatsoever. Right? It was pretty crazy. It was exhausting, like you described. It was not recommended, and he did come back. It did work technically, but what I experienced was as soon as he did, and as soon as I stopped obsessively affirming and you know once my attention did start to wander, it kind of reverted back to the same old, because I still had the same beliefs, I still had the same insecurities, I had the same doubts. um, and yeah, so when you're relaxed and feeling better, I mean, that is naturally the ideal. uh, if you're not seeing any result, number one, it may be that you're giving too much awareness to the absence of that, like giving too much attention to it's not here. Why is it not here? Which is a very common pitfall that we get into a lot of times. We continue to give our focus to not having it. So that may be something to do with it, something to just be aware of. Um, but if we are curious as to why things maybe are not showing up, like that's where self observation is so key. Really paying attention to um, just how am I feeling? What are the things coming up for me in the day to day? What are my thought patterns? Right? Like I may be relaxed, but am I feeling maybe in a state of knowing that this is done? Am I feeling certain about this? Am I feeling relaxed around, you know, the manifestation itself, the desire itself? Just some things to be conscious of, right? I hope that makes sense. Basically, if we're not seeing anything, we really want to start being more aware of what are we entertaining in here. Yeah. Hi, Missy. Currently, I've been using a self concept that if I don't worry about the problems, they'll be resolved by themselves. It seems to be helpful and things just smoothly go with the flow. Oh, good. Part two. I think it's more effective than manifesting solutions to every problem ever popped up. It seems to be better just to ignore them. I feel like I've handed my life to God slash higher self. Is this good? Yes. Yes. Excellent. Absolutely. That's perfect. And that's a really powerful mentality that we want to get to. Um, I mean, that's essentially I and a lot of it does come down to faith. A lot of it does come down to trusting the process, which I know can be scary, especially if we're new with this. But if we're not insistently worried about it, if we're not giving all of our focus to trying to fix the problem, that is ideal. That is ideal. We don't need to figure it out. We don't need to fix the problems. Um, all we're asked to do is select the state, just you know, go to that end, feel into it, and let everything unfold as it must, because it will if we just allow ourselves to kind of go with the flow. So 100%, that is good. I struggle to find a balance between doing too little slash I'm scared I might be uh, I'm scared I might be being by myself. That may have been a typo. Scared I might be telling myself I've done enough and giving into perfectionism and always trying to optimize my process. Yeah, we perfectionism can be something that has the opposite effect in all of this. Uh, really, really want to be mindful of those perfectionist tendencies. A lot of times it's just us spinning our wheels. I mean, again, that was at least the case for me. Um, because this isn't about doing a lot of work. It's, I mean, yes, there is, a change that needs to take place within us, right? And we do need to operate this law because it doesn't operate itself, but it shouldn't be us trying to micromanage everything, trying to perfect everything, again, going into trying to solve everything. Like, that's too much, too much. Um, so long as you are going to that place in imagination, so long as you are turning within and reaching that feeling state, so that by feeling, that is the naturalness of your end desire, feeling the realness of it and accepting that. That's literally it. Now, I know that may sound like oversimplification, and it is usually the case that it's maybe a bit more challenging for us when we go to put it into practice, but um, basically, if you're doubting whether, like, if you're still noticing a lot of the same old thoughts, old patterns, a lot of the old fears, we do want to persist in going back to that end state. But it's really just about finding a way that comes most naturally to us, making sure that we're helping ourselves to get as relaxed as possible before going to that end, not trying to force it from a place of anxiousness or stress. Um, yeah. And I had difficulties with this very thing that you're describing. A lot of it too comes down to faith. So perhaps really focusing on also boosting your faith in yourself as the operant power in these teachings. As your faith gets stronger, we are much better able to sort of let go of trying to, you know, manage the process or give into those perfectionist tendencies. But yeah, I would just make sure that if persist in going to the end, but don't do it by force. So when you are feeling more relaxed, when it feels more at ease and feels like you can kind of flow with it. But I should make a video talking about that more. Yeah. Hi, Missy. What are effective ways to ease anxiety and stop overthinking when the mind keeps creating negative scenarios, especially related to a specific person? Hmm. So, yeah, I know this is one that many have struggles with. So, number one is finding our own ways, because again, everybody is going to be different as far as what helps them, feel more relaxed, what helps them sort of ease tension and stress. So whether that is meditation, whether that is taking deep breaths, deep breathing exercises, whether that's yoga, stretching, moving the body, listening to your favorite music, but incorporating activities in your day to day that help to just, take some of the load off, take some of the pressure off, things that help to feel enjoyable, right? Um, Purely for the sake of just helping us feel less anxious, right? Because obviously that's no good. But also, by going to the end, the point of the imaginal acts, the point of going to the end is for leaving those impressions subconsciously, is to really feel into that experience, like get familiar with the experience of that end state so that it's more natural, it's more normal for you. And as the subconscious mind starts to accept those premises, we're going to find ourselves naturally having less negative intrusive thoughts. We're going to notice ourselves naturally feeling less anxious around, our specific desire, our person, whatever that might be. Um, Basically, you will notice a natural change starting to take place as you are getting acclimated to that new state of consciousness, that new dominant state. So, it's not something that we have to micromanage during the day, but, you know, in that interim, as you are going to the end and getting acclimated to that new state, introducing things, activities, ways that will help you to just naturally relax and feel better. Yeah. Missy, I've noticed that when I come out of imaginal acts, my mind tells me you're still there. So I find myself being in the 40 off on all day, even while working and doing daily tasks. Did you experience that too? I understand the importance of living in the now, but which now, if that makes sense? The 4D, which I realize is happening now, or the actual real now, the 3D? I love it. Yeah, I absolutely experience what you're describing. Because it should carry with you. The coming out of the imaginal act should sort of carry with you. Neville used to say, like, wear like a cologne or a fragrance. Um, not something that you just kind of put on and take off immediately. So yeah, during the day, it was just natural for me to start really thinking from that premise because that's what felt more real to me, even though the 3D didn't show evidence of any kind. Didn't matter. So yeah, that absolutely happened for me too. Things are absolutely. I will make sure to get right back to you after this Q&A for sure. Um, how do I motivate myself to get back to working on myself after a long period of frustration? Yeah, give yourself as much time as you need. I know it's probably not what we want to hear. A lot of times we feel pressed, we feel uh, a sense of urgency, like we need to hurry up and get this done or we're going to miss the window of opportunity. That's not an actual thing, by the way. We're never at risk of losing the manifestation because states of consciousness are eternal. They won't go anywhere. um, so if you're still feeling a lot of frustration, I mean, I would really focus first on just maybe more general self concept, more focusing on you, which is what we want to be doing anyways, right? So, how do I want to feel in general? Maybe not in relation to anything in particular, but how do I want to feel in this world, in this day to day that I navigate? And start there. Start with helping yourself get acclimated to being more relaxed, being more mindful, being more present, right? Practicing being in this now moment, which is the only moment there is. That's how I would start to sort of integrate back in. Um, and as you continue to focus on you and feeling yourself into the state of feeling prioritized, feeling adored, feeling loved, feeling abundant, whatever that is that you want to feel, that you want to, um, how you would want to describe yourself, you're then going to find it easier to go into specifics. Like, for example, with your specific person in that case, or whatever the desired outcome might be. Um, but yeah, yeah. Hi, if I imagine clear skin, should it reflect without going to a doctor, or the doctor could be a bridge to giving me something to clear it? I mean, if we're not specifying, if we're just, you know, imagining a state of having clear skin, we don't know how it's going to show up. It could be that it clears up on its own. It could be that a bridge unfolds that leaves you to a doctor that gives you something that really works. Unless you're specifying, yeah, it could absolutely show up in any way. And that's kind of the point. We don't know those details, but we don't have to. It's not our job. Question: is it being double-minded to have a romantic SP but still date other people? Like, I like him, but not enough to not consider somebody else. Oh, that's hilarious. Um, is it double-minded to have romantic SP but still date other people? Well, I mean, the first thing that I would do is get very clear on what you desire to experience. Um, so if that is a romantic relationship with this person, that's not to say that you can't date other people or live your life. Everyone is going to be different, but I've known plenty of people that have still gone out and met people and lived their life and successfully manifested their specific person back. But if it feels like you're going back and forth between do I want this person or do I not want this person, that would be double-mindedness. So I guess focus first on getting very clear on what you desire. Or if it feels like you can't decide, I would go more general. I would just focus on the state of having a loving and healthy relationship, not even having to put a face or a name to it. Yeah. Is the audio cutting out? Mm. If you are noticing any technical issues, usually if you reload the stream, that should help. My apologies, guys. Good morning, Misfit78. No, baby, I can help you with that. If you want to shoot me a message really quick, I'm going to be going through emails all afternoon. Let me see. Sorry, guys, trying to find my spot. Where was I? Hi, Missy. How do we know that we are acting out of fear to taking inspired action? Do you have an affirmation to ease that doubt? Thank you. How do we know that we are acting out of fear to take inspired action? So, if we are, again, this is where observation is key. This is where we need to be brutally aware and brutally honest with ourselves, because it is absolutely going to feel different when we are doing something from a state of fear versus something that is just coming naturally to us. Inspired action is unconscious action. You're in that moment, you will have zero awareness that this is in relation to the bridge of events. Um, yeah, you'll know in hindsight after the bridge is unfolded. You'll be able to look back and say that was clearly inspired action, but like beforehand, if it feels like you're trying to do something from a state of anxiousness, like you will feel it. If you really take a moment to observe like where this urge or this push is stemming from, we'll know. We'll know. We will know. Yeah. Is divine timing real? Mm, it's when it comes to the timing there. I mean, number one, it's not really our job consciously to know or push that along. Things will unfold in a way that feels most natural to us. Um, they always will unfold in a way that feels right on time. But to that extent, yeah, yeah. I think divine timing, if I remember correctly, that's like almost like premonition or like fate or something like that. And that's not a thing. Anjali, we can absolutely chat more about that if you'd like to reach out and shoot me a message. Not a problem. Hey, Missy, if we imagine world peace for Ukraine and Russia, would this work since it's my reality? Or no, because it's collective energy? So, I mean, everything in your world in that you're experiencing through your eyes and your consciousness, we do want to be mindful of what we are taking in, what we are consuming, what we are assuming about it. Of course, it's going to feel very challenging to believe that we have any kind of effect on things on the macro level. Um, but I would recommend the same thing that Neville did, I guess, which is just being mindful of what we are consuming as far as news, as far as social media. There's a lot of terrible noise seemingly 24/7. And so just being very careful about what you are consuming, what you are feeding into, what you are breathing life into, right? So in the case of something significant, just focusing on hearing the good news that the war has ended, that this conflict has ended, that everything, that peace talks have prevailed, whatever that may be for you, right? Um, that would be my 2 cents. Yeah. Marie, hello. Good morning, beautiful Misty. Aw, would you make a video together with your husband and we can hear his perspective of your SP journey and his own journey with the law? Absolutely. Of course, I have talked to him about this, and he's he is a shy camera guy, but he's open to potentially a podcast episode. So I will definitely keep you guys in the loop about that. But I absolutely think, um, hearing his perspective on everything that he experienced and he went through, and just the changes that has taken place in his life over the years, would be really really helpful for a lot of people, especially those that are struggling, uh, with incorporating these teachings or just struggling with whatever may be going on. Yeah, yeah. If my thoughts are naturally planning things to do with SP in the future, am I in the state? Does this mean I'm in the right state? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because that's what you would be doing from the state of being in a relationship with this person, right? One of the things we do when we're with somebody is we plan things. You know, yeah, exactly. So if those thoughts are coming naturally to you, that is fantastic indication. 100%. Also, I know everyone is you pushed out, but it's hard for me to see how bad things are also coming from me. Am I misinterpreting this? How can perpetrators of cruelty slash genocide, etc., also be me pushed out? Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I definitely need to make a video covering this topic in more detail because this is something that I struggled with naturally. I'm sure a lot of people do. If everyone is as pushed out, then how does that explain terrible things that happen? Like, how is all this bad stuff coming from us? And to be 1,000% clear, I mean, number one, the the conscious thinking you, the concept of you, like Missy Renee is not manifesting the wars around the world. The smaller self, that's not a thing. But also, when it comes to how are things coming from us, like how, if somebody shows up and they're very cruel to us or they're rude to us, obviously, number one, it's likely coming from something that we're not aware of. Like, we're not consciously and deliberately manifesting people to show up in a way that's terrible. I mean, unless one's a masochist, it's obviously not something that we're doing. But a lot of times we do have beliefs such as, you know there are dangerous people out there. Life's not fair, it'll screw you over. People can't be trusted. You always got to be guarded. I mean, a lot of the societal conditioning is around, you know preparing for the worst. And, well, we we can kind of see, in knowing what we know about this law, knowing what we know about everyone issue pushed out, we can see how that may unintentionally and consequently manifest in somebody showing up as a total jackass. Um, Again, this is not at all to blame ourselves. This is not at all something that we need to like give ourselves a hard time about at all, because so much of this is happening underneath the conscious surface. So much of this are things we are just not aware of initially. Um, but yeah, I definitely need to make a video talking about all of this, because the truth is, since creation is finished, that also includes the terrible states. That's not just all of the lovely and wonderful states. It's all states, because we could not have a human experience. We could not have complete free will if it was only the good and not everything. Anyways, going off on a tangent there, but I will make a video talking more about this. Last thing I'll say, the most important thing, is that ultimately when we do come to know and trust that everyone is you pushed out, the power comes in that you can change it. If somebody is showing up in your world being a total jerk, you can change that. Yeah. Oh, a very close friend of mine got mad at me and blocked me for a stupid reason. And they're not the kind of person who would come back easily. But I persisted and said they will come back and say sorry. Guess what? After 10 days of being blocked, they came back and said sorry and unblocked me. I was so shocked, but it felt so good. Yes, I love that. I love that. Perfect example of everyone is you pushed out. Perfect. Perfectly said. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, obviously not the first part, but. And I also received a big payment within 10 days that I was supposed to get within 60 days. Yay! Oh my God, congrats. Oh, I love that for you. Congrats. Mm. Do you ever wonder if animals, particularly those with powerful brains, can manifest? Also, ever wonder if our ability to shape reality might mean we are the sole intelligent life in the universe? Oh, my brain has gone to all of these types of, yeah. I mean, I've explored so many nooks and crannies when it comes to this law, um, and I mean, when it comes to animals, when it comes to different animals, I absolutely, you know, especially those who are seemingly more intelligent, like dolphins, for example, brilliant. Um, I mean, could I say with absolute certainty that they can? No, but I would like to say, like, if you, if you are cognizant enough to like make decisions and um, not doing things from a very like lizard brain level, then yeah, yeah, I would like to say. And what was the second part there? I know my cats manifest me giving them all the treats all day because they got me wrapped around their finger. Yeah, you. What was the other part of that question? Oh, dang it, I lost the other part. Oh, I'm sorry. Chat is particularly jumpy. My apologies. I enjoy being with SP and SATs. I've started to place less importance on text in the 3D as I'm starting to feel SP thinks about me without needing text in the 3D. Waiting for text is just checking the 3D. Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, good. Good. And that's what happens. Like as we continue to go to the end, we're going to find ourselves less and less like reliant on the 3D, or not as like fixated on the 3D. Like we're just going to notice a change in how we feel, and it's going to feel more relaxed. We're going to feel more at ease, right? And then that's not to say that we don't want the 3D experience. And of course we do, but it's going to take away a lot of the pressure and the urgency around that. Yeah. Good. I'm happy to hear that. Hey, Missy, I compare myself to my sister because I think that she is prettier than me. What to do in terms of the law? People have even told me that she is prettier. This is everyone as she pushed out, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is. And the first is to just see that that's an assumption that you have had and that you have maybe built up into believing as truth, right? Um, it's a story that you have told to the point of conviction, nothing more, nothing less. Um, in terms of the law, if the desire is to um, feel more attractive, to feel more beautiful, then I would be going to the end with just that. Imagining hearing feedback from people about how good I look, and you look like you've transformed. You look so pretty. What have you been doing differently? Things like that, right? Hearing the confirmation, or imagining seeing it, whatever preference, whatever way of going to the end that you have, but reaching that feeling state of feeling beautiful. Hmm. Yeah. All right. Where'd the spot go? Dang it. I'm sorry, guys. Hello, Missy. How can I believe my list method? Some things happen, but I still can't believe. I have anxiety thinking about manifesting, and I think that if I manifest the things, and I have anxiety thinking about manifesting, and I think that if I manifest the things are just temporary. Mm. Yeah, yeah. I know that's one of the fears that we have around this is receiving the manifestation and losing it again, or having it just be a uh, temporary situation. That's why there's so much importance and emphasis put on changing the self concept versus trying to get something to appear in the 3D, because we are always creating, or not even creating, we're selecting states. Creation's already finished, but we're always selecting states. And we naturally do that. We subconsciously do that from our beliefs and assumptions. So, depending on the beliefs and assumptions I hold, that's going to determine what the experiences that I have, right? So, how do we overcome that fear? Again, reconditioning those beliefs, those assumptions, the change in self concept. Yeah. I know from this state, there's a lot of fear, a lot of hesitancy. So I absolutely do recommend also focusing on building faith. The list method is not the only way to go about building faith. Although if you are, wanting to use the list method, just I would be sure to put it out of your mind. Like once you imagine that thing, put it out of your mind. Don't go looking for it. Don't do anything with it. Leave it be. It will show up when we're not looking for it, and when we're not fixated on it. If that feels difficult to do, another way that I talk about often is, again, observing the relationship between your inner and outer world, because that's the law. That is the law in full effect. If the law states that everything is reflection of what you are internalizing, right? If it's all reflection stemming from your beliefs, your assumptions, what you are assuming as true, what you're identifying with, then if we are aware of it, if we are observing, we should start to see the relationship. We should start to see the connections between what's taking place in here and what's also taking place out here. Yeah. Yeah. But I would right now, in your shoes, if I was in your shoes right now, I would be focusing on just building up a state of confidence, really solidifying a state where I feel confident and assured within myself. That is something that I did have to do because I too had a lot of fears. Yeah. Could it be that some of our desires are not the best thing for us, but we desire them anyway, and we don't end up with our manifestation? Could it be that so we don't manifest something because it's not good for us? No. I mean, the law is always going to outpicture what we are believing and assuming to be true. So even for things that may not be good for us, if we are if we're going to that end, if we have selected that state, if we have left that impression, we will see it outpictured. It's never the case that God's going to say, "Oh no, this thing's not good for you. You're not going to have that." Yeah, no, no. Hi, Missy. How do you overcome long abandonment trauma? Hi. Revision. Revision. Um, and then that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to revisit, you know, super painful memories, or put yourself in a place where that if that feels uncomfortable. But I would focus on creating new memories around the concept that you were always chosen, that you've always been respected, that you've always been seen, right? That was something that I actively had to do because abandonment was one of my biggest, if not the biggest insecurity that I had. So I really placed a lot of emphasis on revising not just incidents that really formed that belief, but the construction of new memories where I felt, included, where I felt safe, where I felt secure, where I felt chosen, right? That's where a lot of my attention went. Um, revision, revision. Hi, Christina. Hello. What can we do in general about comparison? It is such a thief of joy. Oh my God, it is. It is. Ugh. And sadly, that has been such a strong conviction for a lot of people, like something that we've been very heavily conditioned with, um, comparison. What can we do about it? I, I would focus on building your faith, especially around everyone as you pushed out. Really, really building faith around everyone as you pushed out. Because the more that we come into trusting that premise, the more that we're going to naturally realize that competition and comparison isn't a real thing. It's not objective fact. It's not real, right? For the past couple weeks, I've been very good and feeling like it's done and it's mine until the past 2 nights. I've had very vivid dreams of the old story with my SP. Is this normal? It, yeah, I would say it's normal. I mean, I've certainly talked to many people that have experienced this. Yeah, we can revise dreams. We can revise dreams. Um, I, just we even if we do have bad dreams, we it may not be the easiest thing to do, but try not to let yourself get wrapped up in fear around that. Because once again, you are still the upper empowered, not your dreams. So I would just go ahead and revise it. Hmm. Hi, Missy. I'm trying to do sats or even trying to relax and reach some near to the deep state, but I don't know why I'm skipping it every night. It's been about months and I'm tired. I know it's easy and how deep I can go, and I don't even pressure to do something. All I want is gradual improvement, but I am skipping before I try, even if I happily want it. Yeah. This is a form of resistance. Procrastination, distraction, two subtle but very common forms of resistance. It's the old man by change, basically. Uh, this is normal. If it feels like there's difficulty at night before bed, I would practice during the day. If you go to lay down to take a nap in the afternoon, that's also a fantastic time. Or start with going into a meditation and just allow yourself to go deeper, right? Uh, Commit to even just a few minutes of it. If it feels like it's too much work or there's anything around that, just even if it's just a few minutes of sitting in meditation or getting yourself relaxed and trying it at different intervals of the day. Yeah. But this is normal. Hi, Missy. Question about manifesting wealth when you have a lot of debt. Find it really challenging more than any other area of my life to manifest money given my high levels of debt. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I do have a video coming out around manifesting abundance in this topic. It's already filmed. It's part way edited, so that will be coming out soon. I know naturally this comes back to how can we persist in the end when our 3D is showing us the opposite. Again, that's arguably the most challenging part we have to all of this because we are so conditioned to the 3D, and we have been our whole entire lives. We've been taking the 3D as facts, real world. Imagination has been fantasy land. So this is a common area of struggle. But it's also the entire point of this practice. The thing that we're learning, or I guess unlearning, I should say, is giving all of our attention and attachment to the 3D and allowing ourselves to go outside of the boundaries of what feels possible in imagination, because in truth, there is no limits to what you can do in imagination. And that's the entire point. That's why it is our creative power, because there are no obstacles, there are no things that we have to overcome, there's no conditions that need to be met. In here, we can be a millionaire, billionaire if we want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now, of course, at first, it's going to feel very unrealistic. It's going to feel fake. You're probably going to notice some pushback from the ego, that inner critic, the little voice in the back of your head. That is normal. We're just learning to explore imagination purely for the sake of experiencing whatever it is that we desire to experience in imagination, not tying it to the 3D. That's where we get stuck. That's where we're the ones putting the barriers around what we imagine, what is possible to imagine for us. And then as soon as we open our eyes, it feels we're right back in the real world. But first, it starts with the practice of really letting yourself move outside of the boundaries of what is possible for you, and practicing that until it feels like the most natural thing in the world to do. And again, I know with the 3D, we're not even trying to ignore it per se, as seeing it as something that was impressed from a day ago, a week ago, a month ago. Everything that is presently in your 3D is subject to change. All of it is subject to change. It's just old impressions, nothing more, nothing less. And just because something appears a certain way right now does not matter whatsoever in regards to it changing. So I made a video talking about this a while back. I need to make another one. This is without question the area of challenge that people struggle with the most. Yeah. We're sort of reverting back to when we were kids. And when we were kids, we were able to imagine anything. Like the crazy outlandish didn't matter. It didn't matter. We did it because it felt good. It's kind of, that's sort of the mentality we need to come back to. Happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. I love it. I love it. And my husband and I are huge Star Wars nerds. The first thing he did this morning, as I was making coffee, he came out and said, "May the 4th be with you," because he's a jackass. All right. I got time for a couple more questions. I'm so sorry we got off to such a late start today, guys. Hi, Nelly. It's good to have you here. Good to have you here. Missy, I'm truly grateful for these live sessions. Oh, the fact that you've kept them free. I can't thank you enough. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. That is so sweet. And yeah, it's really important for me that everybody gets a chance to ask questions and participate. I'm really happy to have you here. Did I miss a message? Hi, Missy. What to imagine if I realize I have the belief that all good things don't last long? What imaginal act could uproot that, since it's a general belief that shows up after a while? Good question. Yeah, and I say that that's pretty common belief or fear. It's a fear that a lot of us have, that the good things don't last. So, I mean, absolutely, we want to challenge this premise because it's not true. But one thing that you could imagine is, you know, for example, a scene that implies that things have been going well for you for quite some time, right? A conversation with a friend, a loved one about how things have just been absolutely incredible, and it, for years now, things have been just going absolutely amazing. Something that implies it has been a long time, right? Uh, or just centering yourself in that knowing state that, that things don't have to be temporary, that things can absolutely be like permanent change can happen within myself, but it all starts within ourself first, right? You can also revise. You can revise that you've always been somebody that knows that you are always deserving and always experience good things, and that you're a magnet for good things, for good circumstances, good outcomes, whatever that is. Hey, Missy, me and my SP met a few times after a few months. Everything was perfect. We spent our time just like we used to. He slept over, we traveled. He held me all the time, but then he said that he missed and loves me, but that he's not sure he wants to get back together. I've revised, dropped the story, worked on my self concept. Should I stop meeting him? What should I do? I know it can be especially challenging, again, when we're dealing with somebody in the flesh, in the 3D. It can feel really, really, really hard to not accept that as final, to not accept that as true and factual and all of that. It could be very difficult to dismiss that. Absolutely, I would be revising. I'm not going to say that you have to stop talking or that you have to um, stop meeting with him. That is entirely up to you. And I would do some reflection on what you feel would be best for you. In my case, I did have to take the initiative of giving space between myself and at the time he was my ex, but my specific person, I guess. At that time, I was constantly being triggered by his actions, which would then cause me to react, which then would cause the cycle to continue. And I got to a point where I knew that I had to change that. I was the only one who could change that. So I took some space from seeing him in the 3D. Again, that's not to say that you have to do the same or follow suit, but if you are going to continue to speak with him and interact with him out here, if if when he does show up in ways that are not ideal, revise the interaction, revise the conversation until you get to the point where that new memory feels more real. Sometimes if the revision doesn't seem to be planting or sticking, we have not reconditioned it enough. We have not revised it enough. The old story still feels more prominent. That feels more real for us. So revise until it feels very much like that new memory is what actually happened. Yeah. Happy Sunday. I have two questions this week. Whenever I go to manifest a particular outcome at a specific event, I can easily get into the state beforehand, but once I'm actually there, I fall out of it and can't can't get back into it. Any ideas why this might be? This is normal. This is normal. Yeah. It may not even, the challenge may not be in moving into that state, going there mentally, but maintaining it. A lot of times at first, we'll find that we fall out of the state that we moved into, because by default, we're always gravitating back to the dominant state, whatever we feel is most natural and common for us. And that's where the whole persistence aspect comes in. That's why continuing to go to that state until that feels like home base, until that feels like something you just naturally gravitate to, until you're no longer falling back on the old. But this is very common, very common. If it feels like you're having difficulty getting back into that state in the moment, indication that you're trying to force it, and we don't want to force it. So I would just drop it for the time being. Allow yourself to get more relaxed first. Maybe turn your attention to something else for a moment, and then once you feel a bit more relaxed, a bit more able to, then direct your attention back to that state. I hope that makes sense. And what was related to this, I often have difficulty not accepting unfavorable outcomes, especially if it's a desire that unfolds slowly. Um, as each step, the 3D seems to remind me that what I'm experiencing isn't what I wanted. Any advice on not accepting unwanted realities in the moment they are happening? Um, Not accepting unfavorable outcomes. As each step in the 3D reminds me of what I don't want. So, how to not accept unwanted realities in the moment they are happening. This is also going to be something that comes easier with practice. The ability to reject certain states that you may have fallen into. And really it's just that it's first becoming aware that, okay, this state is not ideal, right? This is not the events that I desire to have happen and that I desire to see unfold. I This is not the experience I want, so I need to turn back within, right? I need to go back to the state that I desire to be. Basically, return to the experience that you do want mentally. Hmm. And we understand that the 3D moves slower, right? Linear time, series of events, things of that nature. So it may not be an immediate shift, but we can immediately shift internally, right? At least as soon as we are able to shift internally. And just that's where, again, just honing in on that, regardless of what it looks like out here. Out here is always subject to change. Always. We just have a lot of attachment to the 3D naturally. But one thing that does come in this practice is you're no longer going to be so much at the mercy of your 3D environment, your 3D circumstances. Because as you grow to accept and trust that all of this is just the outpicturing and it's all subject to change, of course you're not going to have as much issue. Because you no longer have the attachment to those unwanted states, or you're no longer going to be moved by the unwanted states because they're temporary. Yeah. Yeah. This is normal. Missy, how did you manifest your husband back? That was a long story. I made a video talking about it. If you just type in the search bar, Missy Renee, how I manifested my specific person, that should pop right up. Um, a long, long story. Definitely check out that video though. I started watching your videos and it helped me understand the present moment versus linear time in 3D. Thank you so much. You are so welcome. Good. Good. All right, I gotta find my spot. Hi from France. I wanted to thank you for your videos on Neville's 5 lessons. They've been so awakening. Well, yay, good. I'm glad. Also, I wanted to ask you if you had any advice on how to let go of resentment. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Revision. Revision. Revision is forgiveness. Revision is how we shed any and all resentment around the past. Yeah. Yeah. I've made a few videos talking about revision. The upcoming Neville lecture that I'm going to be dissecting also, he speaks a lot about revision. Neville spoke a lot about revision, as you guys are going to see if you watch the series. He stressed constantly the importance of taking the events of the day that were not wanted and ideal and changing it in here, because the resentment is stemming from what happened in the past, right? So I know it's not at first always going to feel easy to do. There's almost something cathartic that comes with holding on to that resentment. Like there's a part of us, stemming from the ego that doesn't want to let that go. But we must. So definitely check out the videos I made talking about revision. And if you haven't seen the Neville lecture series yet, I definitely recommend checking that out, because a few of those lectures absolutely does speak more on revision as well. But on that note, you guys, I am so sorry to have to cut this. And I apologize if I did not get to your question, but rest assured, I'm here every Sunday. I will be back next week. Thank you guys so much for being here and putting up with some of the technical difficulties when the stream started. But as always, love being here with you guys. Always enjoy your company. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Definitely keep eyes out for a new video coming out and a new video on the Neville Lecture Series. Be well. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Bye, guys.